Broadcasting live. It's America's longest running talk show on computers. It's Computer America, bringing you the biggest names in technology with guest interviews, new products, and your emails. Listen live at computeramerica.com on any device around the world. Email the show at live@computeramerica.com or find us on social media. Be sure to check out our website for contests, giveaways, show notes, live video stream, podcasts, and more. You're listening to Computer America.
Hello and welcome into the Computer America Show. We are the nation's longest running, nationally syndicated radio talk show on computers and technology. Thank you for joining us. I'm your host, Ben Crossman, and I hope all of you are having a wonderful day. As we get things kicked off here, this is something, it's kind of funny that this got this way. That last show, we ended the show with a story about how France is taking such a hardline approach to fake news, to combating, articles or pieces pretending to have some kind of authority and making up different kinds of institutions. And when you do some digging, turns out it's all propaganda. Well, and that's how we ended the show yesterday. You can go back and listen. But today, this is actually going to start playing some elements with our guests. So joining us in just a moment will be a company called Trive. They make an extension that you can load onto any browser. As I understand it, we'll get a better picture as to exactly what they do, as we have the CEO and founder on with us, Mr. David Mondrus. And so, but before we get to that, a couple of things I want to mention, including computeramerica.com. That's where you'll find everything, show notes, articles that we write, or articles that we show. Anything and everything will be right there on our website. Be sure, also a link to our guest website as well. Be sure to check out the social media contest. We will have a winner today that brought to you by Logitech. Happy to do that every single Friday. And then, let's see, the last thing is the video portion. You can watch Computer America, not just listen. And that comes in handy for certain guests and articles and things like that, where we show demonstration videos. We show how products work, and it's just another way to show. Not necessarily still radio, but give it a try. So, with all of that being said, I'm just going to go ahead and bring on our guest, and once again, David Mondrus, and he is the CEO and founder of Trive. And David, welcome on to Computer America.
Thank you so much. Glad to be here.
Happy to have you. And I'll be honest, if I wrote if I wrote the description for the show right, I could probably have the most buzzwords simply off of our subject, because I think you have like the blockchain, you have cryptocurrency, you have fake news, you have all of these different things. And so I'm hoping that you could, shed some light on what you're doing and break it down. But let's start off with a bit of your background and a bit of Trive's background. When did Trive get started?
Sure. So Trive started actually about a year ago, a little bit less than maybe March of 2017. And it was really a reaction to the way that the media behaved in the previous election cycle. Now, we all have different political leanings and we all have different ideas about who should be president. But the one thing that I expect from the press is the truth. We were taught, and I went to high school long enough where we still had to stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. We were taught that the fourth estate is the bulwark against tyranny. That's their job. But if 96% of all donations, all political donations from reporters, go to only one campaign, can we really trust them to be non-biased? The New York Times had to apologize for their behavior twice in the last election cycle. They issued a formal apology and asked for a reboot with their customers. One of the people who did the apology was the public policy editor. So what did the New York Times do 6 months after the election cycle? They eliminated the public policy editor position. They simply canned the job. The problem is that media doesn't have an incentive to deliver quality. They have an incentive to deliver not extremism, but the hype, sensationalism. And because of that, they monetize your attention span before you've had a chance to decide whether they should. you read an article and you think to yourself, wow, that article is complete nonsense. But by the time you've done that, they've already monetized your attention. They're done with you at that point. What this does, what Trive does, is it creates a media feedback loop where we now send a feedback to media that says that when you print things that aren't true, we simply won't consume them. And why would you want to? If you trust my judgment and I tell you that this story is false, why would you want to waste your attention span? So
Yeah.
that's kind of where we started with all of that. So let me do a little bit of my background. I think it's interesting.
Sure.
I think it shows kind of where I come from, and then we can talk about how Tribe works. So I was born in Kiev, in Ukraine. I was raised in New York City in Washington Heights during the riots. I went to John F. Kennedy High School. I did a couple of years in the U.S. military. I was in the infantry. But I've been writing code since I was 13. I've been writing code for a very long time. And in the years between 94 and 2000, I was in the dot-com world where I ended up running a large team with a big budget, but still no degrees. Then I went back to school and I did about 6 years at IBM as a consultant. I went back to school. I got my bachelor's from SUNY and my MBA from Columbia. And over the last 5 years, I've been involved in the crypto space. And the reason I got involved in the crypto space partly was because it was a new and exciting technology, and I love startups and I love new technologies. My first computer was a Commodore VIC-20. To your listeners out there who might remember that,
That's old, yeah.
yeah, it's very old. But as I started paying more attention to it, and I started truly understanding the technology underlying the blockchain, it made me understand that what this was revolutionary, world changing. And so I compare it to being more revolutionary than the internet. I don't compare it to the internet. I compare it to the printing press. And if you think about what the printing press gave us, right? So the printing press led directly to the Protestant Reformation, to the founding of, to the conversion of England into Protestantarianism, the founding of the America, 1776, and individual liberty. It was because people couldn't read back then, and so they got their information from priests, and it was mostly fake news. And so as a result, the printing press allowed for mass literacy. And that mass literacy then led to individualism and individual liberty. Bitcoin frees us from the shackles of finance. In 1916, we passed the Federal Reserve Act. And since 1916, the amount of deflation in our economy has been very small. The amount of inflation in our economy has been very large. The value of a dollar over the last 100 years has deteriorated by something like 99%. What Bitcoin does is it removes that system from the equation. It allows us to then store our value in a system that does not degrade. There is no way to create any more Bitcoin. And so as a result, we're able to then bypass this stealth inflation, this stealth devaluation that the government has been forcing on us. And that's one of the reasons why it's so popular and so successful.
Yeah, I mean, we've been covering Bitcoin quite a bit, and it's always fun. I feel like I could have a very cool, like a roller coaster paper on my paper if I track the price of Bitcoin from hour to hour. It's
Sure.
incredibly volatile, but you're right. It does have, it does promise that techies and I think people who really like the idea of truly decentralized. I mean, both of them really like the technology underneath it. But if you could speak more to kind of why you feel that Bitcoin itself is successful, or do you think that the blockchain, the technology behind it, that is going to lead to a lot of kind of new technology? I mean, Bitcoin itself, it's successful in that it's worth a lot of thousands of dollars now, but as a technology, it's starting to really show signs of it's not really functional as it's as a currency. It's taking hours. It has high transaction. It's there are other coins that are popping up with the same kind of technology, looking to alter and make this kind of technology better. But why do you feel that Bitcoin or blockchain in general is just kind of the way to go for currency?
No, absolutely. I agree with you. So when I talk about Bitcoin, I talk about sometimes Bitcoin specifically and sometimes cryptocurrency in general. So yes, you're absolutely right. Transaction fees are high. The block times are slow, and that's because the blocks in the blockchain are literally full. And there's lots of cool charts that I can show you that show you that's the case, and that's why the fees are expensive and so on. And there are many other currencies taking Bitcoin's place as a transaction medium, like Litecoin or Bitcoin Cash or even Ethereum. So I agree completely. It's not so much that I'm trying to argue that Bitcoin itself will be the solution to this problem, but that crypto in general and blockchains specifically and other blockchain like storage mechanisms. One of my little claims to fame, very small claim to fame, is that my wife and I were the first couple to get married on the blockchain. And so the reason for that is because the blockchain is immutable. Where better to store your wedding vows than an immutable blockchain?
That that is like poetic. I mean, because you're right. I mean, once those ledgers are altered and they start to disseminate, I mean, it's very hard, if not impossible, to change every single one of them without
Right.
there being some kind of fingerprint kind of lead to that. So if you would, kind of, if we could lean back towards what you started the show with,
Sure.
and we have the website up. If you're watching the video, it. Trive is a social science global consensus engine that researches and verifies truth, humans crowd wisdom. If you could break that down, maybe term by
Sure.
term.
We stop fake news,
Okay.
and we do it with crowds. So imagine that you're browsing the web and you come across a story that you think is fake. You have our browser plugin installed. At the moment, the plugin only works on Chrome, but obviously we're going to expand that as much as we can. And so you see this story and you think it's false, and you send it off into the system and you attach a couple of Trive tokens as a bounty to have it researched. As because we're unique on the URL, as many people find that same story and they all attach a bounty, this all comes into the marketplace, and now it makes sense for a curator to start working on the story. So a curator finds the story, takes it off the stack, and creates what we call a claims sheet. So a claims sheet is what the story claims. And it claims that Donald Trump was in the White House on January 1st, that he signed the following executive order, and that the executive order had the following consequences, whatever. She then sends it off to researchers to research each claim. And the way that we prevent collusion is that in each story, you're only able to play one part. So you can be a curator, you can be a researcher, you can be a verifier, you can be a witness, but you can only do one thing in a story, research one fact. That's it. Then, when you're done researching your fact and you've attached a score and links to why you believe that to be the case and a short little write up, you send the story off to be verified. The verifier's job is to verify the researcher's work. If a verifier feels that the researcher is wrong or that the verifier can do a better job, then the verifier has the ability to challenge the researcher's work and create an exception. And they do that by creating the same work that the researcher does and submitting it to a panel of 10 witnesses for arbitration or for decision. The experiment is double blind, so nobody knows who the researcher or the verifier is, and nobody knows who the witnesses are. But the witnesses decide which of the two versions are true. And so that process allows us to create a system in which information is researched, people get paid for their work, that information is then stored on the blockchain forever, precisely for the reasons we discussed, so that it's never changed. And the whole thing is published out there using either a browser plugin or a mobile app that we're working on. And so you're browsing the web, and some of these stories are easy to see because they're true, so they're light and they're airy and they're normal. And some of them are kind of hard to see. They're dark and they're opaque, and they're kind of difficult to read because they're false. And if you turn the dial all the way up, they simply don't appear in the stream at all. They just get sort of airbrushed out. Now, obviously, that's up to the user, and it's user's decision at what point to do that. But that's kind of the point, is to try to save the attention span. Why waste your time on something that isn't true?
Now, and this is something that obviously this does have a tech angle, so this is something we cover. Politics, not so much, but I will say that in my, we do what we do, and I will say that that's something I've noticed, that stories don't stick around that long. Stories make their
Hmm.
impact. They're very, if they're very incendiary, if they're very well written to be clickbait or what have you, they make their impact, and then they can be proven true or false after the fact, and then people don't care because it happened 6 hours ago. That's ancient news. Talk about how Trive and how long that process you describe takes, because it can all part of what makes
Sure.
fake news is that it can make the rounds, and then it doesn't matter because you can't really go back and suck the
Sure.
information out of people's.
Sure. Sure. So the saying is that a lie will go around the world twice before the truth has a chance to put his pants on. Right. That's the saying. And it's a very valid point. On the other hand, we do find that sometimes these viral meme propagations take sometimes up to days, and these stories sometimes fester for months. You know, the Trump collusion story with Russia has been going on for a year now. So if you had done verification of parts of a story like that earlier in the year, you could reuse a lot of the same material for the new story and speed up the process. And we actually think that the process can be very quick. But to your point, we are working on a way to make these things a lot faster. Um, because we feel that, yeah, it is important. But on the other hand, it does take time to actually find out information. So sometimes these things can take a long time because they should.
No, no, you're right. They absolutely should. I mean, work like this, it can be laborious, and when you, hey, you should really check the sources of this article and make sure that everything's on the
Hmm.
up and up. It is kind of like work and asking people spare time, if they're
Hmm.
just kind of keep up. They don't want to. They don't want a second job just if they're getting proper news. So they,
Exactly.
obviously, they're looking for curation from trusted source. So let's
Exactly.
talk about how Trive and cryptocurrency. I believe you said you had your own coin,
Yes.
and let's talk about these bounties that you place on articles.
Right. Well, so you're absolutely right. Nobody works for free. And even when people are really excited and interesting about a subject, it's not sustainable to do this work for free. So we want to pay them, and we want to pay them a fair wage for the work that they do. So we've created our own currency called Trive tokens. It's a Ethereum-based token. We had a little sale late last year. We're going to have another sale sometime this year. But basically, in order for you to have a story researched, the people who are doing that research, the curators, researchers, verifiers, the witnesses, have to get paid. And so we have a model by which when a story is taken off the stack, the people in that system get paid by that cryptocurrency. And so that's one of the big advantages of using cryptocurrencies is you can create currencies that then have incentives for people. In this case, an incentive to find the truth. The other part is the storage on the blockchain. We want to make sure that this data is never changed. I actually wrote an article almost 5 years ago, where no, 4 years ago, where I talked about the fact that if you were Assange and you had Snowden's docs in hand in a crypto stick, how could you travel? And the idea there was that you would upload it to the cloud and you would encrypt it across multiple data centers, and that the data would move back and forth, and so that even you wouldn't know where it physically was. And now we have a currency called Sia Coin, which does something very similar. So this idea of the blockchain immutability and this idea of being able to then store the data and not have it be changed, because we know that the government has the ability to do that, is really really important part of what we're working on.
Makes perfect. So, and I'm guessing that people can go to any exchange and obviously buy these. And I mean, are you expecting people, or at least people who are interested in maybe really finding out the truth of fake news? Because, like I began this hour with, uh, this is something that it's not just uh, you know random people are looking for fake news. It's starting to be, the French government, starting to be
Hmm.
obviously our own administration, starting to be Facebook and Twitter.
Hmm.
Large organizations and countries themselves are looking to combat this. How you know how much drive are you kind of expecting people to kind of keep on hand just to kind of research? Because this is a growing problem, and this is probably going to start coming up. Like there's no signs of fake news stopping.
Right. Yeah, and I don't think it will stop. And yes, I do think it's a continuing problem worldwide in every facet. So unfortunately, Tribe is not yet on any exchange. Hopefully, that will change this year. At the moment, the only place you can buy Tribe tokens is from us. What we are going to be doing early this year is creating a new platform, a new version of Tribe called Tribe Bets, and using that, you'll actually be able to buy Tribe tokens for both cryptocurrencies and fiat in real time. So when you have something that you want researched, you can actually pay right there and then in whatever form, and then have that be done very very quickly. And so that will also give us an ability to then send those tokens out and sell them. And then later this year, we'll likely do another sale, and then hopefully more people will buy them. But there's only a billion tokens. There will never be any more tokens made, and so if you think about the worldwide news verification network, the market of that, I don't think it's all that many tokens. So yes, I expect people to either keep them on hand or to buy them as they need them and then use them, or to participate in the system and get paid for labor in Tribe tokens.
Absolutely. And then, of course, you can take those and cash them to another one, or keep them
Right.
and
Yeah.
cycle continue. So makes perfect sense. And I've just been poking through your white paper. One thing that I'm kind of curious about, and obviously you said that you're working on the process of which, these stories are verified with, the curators, the witnesses, so on and so forth.
Mhm.
Um, how how certain are you? Because I'm reading here. Let's see, review two anonymous claims, and you have one person there. That's at the moment, as you start to kind of get going. Um, have you given any thought to large organizations, let's say Russian, hacking groups or people like that,
Mhm.
who kind of swarm the system and say, "Hey, we'll all do the job," and it's everyone, essentially
Yes.
sitting in a room or on Discord or in some kind of chat
Yes.
application. Are you concerned about people, kind of gaming the
Absolutely.
system by filling every seat?
Absolutely. Collusion is absolutely a concern. And so what you're describing is a Sybil attack where one individual or one individual pretends to be many individuals or some sort of a collusion attack. And so we've tried to address it a number of ways. Number one is you have to go up the reputation scores before you can do the jobs. So before you can be a curator, you must have been a researcher. And before that, you must have been a verifier and so on and so on. And so it takes time to go up those levels. It requires a level of work. Next, because we have reputation scores, if we find that people are acting dishonestly or if they're acting unethically, their reputation score goes down. And as their reputation score goes down, their ability to participate in the system goes down. And then there was one more, sorry.
Well, no, it certainly makes perfect sense. Just having the reputation score alone will certainly, kind of keep fake accounts and things like that from popping
All
up.
right.
Yeah.
Right, so I remember the third one. And so the third one is something that we're calling a SAD. And it's not really written up anywhere. I've been talking about it for a while and actually been talking about it for several years now. But a SAD is a statistical anomaly detector. So the connection between wallets, so the participation on a particular story, should be reasonably random. There shouldn't be any collusion between wallets. We shouldn't see the same wallets participating in the same stories over time. And if we do see that, then we can just cut it off. And we can say these wallets are not allowed to participate together anymore. And so as a result, if there is collusion, it gets broken pretty quickly. And then if the bad wallets try to interact again, the reputation score goes down, and at a certain point they get kicked off the system.
So,
So I think we've got a good verification system in place.
so there is some kind of I don't want to say central, kind of like you said that you can shut down wallets, and that you can
Well, the
shut down
SAT is
wallets.
the SAT is within the application
Okay,
itself. It's
okay.
statistical in nature. So there isn't a person looking at it. It's just statistics saying, the chances of this happening are 6 sigma. Therefore, we believe it to be collusion, and therefore it gets cut off. And of course, in order to be polite, what we should do is show people that. So we should be able to show a field of wallet addresses and show when they're colluding with each other and when they're about to cross the threshold. And I'm sure that people will ride that line as much as they can, but at least some level of control, I think, is enough.
Right. So let's talk about why you decided to a browser plugin, because there's a couple of different ways you've taken this. I mean, you've already created the cryptocurrency, so there's nothing to say that you couldn't create, I don't know, maybe a form of your browser. Uh, why decide a browser plugin was the best way to facilitate this?
Well, to be honest, the plugin is just the beginning, right? It's not the end. And the reason we went with the plugin is because we're actually building off of an open source project, and they had a good plugin. And I also created one as a demo for the beginnings of the project, so it kind of made sense. But at the moment, we're also working on a mobile app. And so my gut says that in the long run, most of the work, both in terms of research verification as well as the actual submittal, will actually be done on phones. And so, another couple of months and we'll have the mobile app done as well.
And oh, just yesterday, we had a company on the show that works with AI. We've had many on the program that work with AI. Why do you feel crowdsourcing is? Do you think crowdsourcing is a step to artificial intelligence? Artificial intelligence will supremely kind of replace the role of people in your. Where do you see kind of other technology working?
Well, so I'm a big fan of AI, and I've actually been thinking and talking and working on neural nets. I did it in the early '80s before the technology was really there, late '80s. Um, and we've talked to many AI people about this. I believe that the understanding of truth, of what truth is, requires not just a form of soft artificial intelligence, but hard artificial intelligence. And so hard AI means consciousness. Not only that, but you also need both cultural context understanding as well as the understanding of the culture itself. I would think that it would be very difficult for an American in New York to proof Chinese news in China and vice versa. And so we started looking at that. We said, is an AI solution to this possible? If so, form would it take? And when you come to the conversation of hard AI, you ask yourself, is hard AI possible? And the next part of that question is, well, where does consciousness reside? And so after much research, I'm with Peter Thiel in that I believe that this is a VR simulation and that consciousness does not reside in this verse. As a result, and maybe this is a little bit far out there, but as a result, the decision on hard AIs and trying to use AI for this kind of made sense to go the way we did. That being said, I have met a number of people working in fake news detection using AI, and I think there's a role here for that AI being a feeder. So the AI then, looks at the news feeds of the world and says, based on my understanding, there's a 90% probability this is fake news. Let's feed that to Trive, and then let's let Trive actually determine if it is or it isn't.
Right.
Um, and by highlighting the ones that are spreading them fastest, which most likely is clickbait, we can potentially stop it before it starts. So you can imagine the clickbait starts, whatever it is, Donald Trump and the Gorilla Channel apparently today. I don't know the details, but okay. The AI detects it, sends it to Trive. Trive verifies it, sees that it's fake, issues the fake warning. And because so many people use that information, it now stops spreading.
Gotcha. So, and about where your end game is for Tribe, because I think obviously like Tribe to be on every browser out there.
Absolutely.
That would be probably ideal for you. But do you see this being used by everyday Joes, by the people in the media? Do you see
Absolutely.
this? Go ahead.
Yes to all of it. I see this being used by people who simply believe the truth is important. I see this being used by media sources to verify their own sources. And what I would like to stress more than anything else is this project is not about me. This project is about the truth. So even if I'm not involved in the project, this project itself is really important for humanity. So I will take all volunteers and all help, and I want to turn this into a movement and into a community, not a company. It's great that there's a company and it's nice that it can make a little bit of money, but it's really, really important for this to be a worldwide community project. So I ask for help, right? So if anybody out there is listening and they want to help, just come and join us. Telegram, web, Facebook, Twitter, whatever. I'm easy to find and help. And we'll take whatever help we can get. And if we can compensate people, that's great. And if we can't, then we'll just take help. But if you think the truth is important, here we are fighting for the truth. Come help us.
There you go. I can think of no better way to end this interview, but I will say that over at computeramerica.com, we have a link directly to tribe.news if you check that out. Your white paper is also up there as well as the plugins and that. And David, I got to say, this has been very interesting and another example of what the blockchain. So this is a first, and again, a lot of buzzwords, but I think you're doing very cool here.
Thank you. Thank you. It was really, really fun. I
Yeah,
appreciate it.
our pleasure, our pleasure. So everyone, once again, this is of course Trive, and we are talking to Mr. David Mondrus, CEO and founder of Trive. And folks, again, check it out. And until next time, David, good luck and good luck with your offerings. And hey, we're looking to see the coin up on the exchange.
Sounds great. Thank you
All
so
right,
much.
have a good one. Bye bye.
You too.
All right, so everyone, there he goes, and there's that could not have ended at a better time. So we continue on here where we are going to get into computer and technology, hopefully not computer and fake news, as we have a number of stories, everything ranging from recalls to NSA hackings, app revenue, and So everyone, stay tuned. Computer America, more right after this.
We are all Brother Wolf. 10 years ago, a group of locals banded together to create positive change. We took animals into our homes, held adoption events at local retailers, and talked to the community about our mission to help build a no-kill Asheville. A decade later, we have achieved so many victories for animals in need. There's been so much progress, yet there's still so much to do. As part of our year-long celebration, we encourage you to become a member of our special Compassionate Circle program. With a monthly donation of $10 or more, you will have behind-the-scenes access to the work we are doing at Brother Wolf. Our goal is to reach 1,000 members because we receive no government funding. Working together, we can help build and sustain no-kill communities. Learn more at compassionatecircle.bwar.org. We are a 501c3 tax-deductible organization.
And welcome back to the Computer America Show. We are 31 minutes past the hour as we continue on. And folks, we are going to go ahead and do one of our winners for our Logitech contest. And yeah, we'll draw that right now. And folks, if you don't recall, this is a contest where we give away a prize from Logitech. They supply it every single and we pick a single winner. Hey, we could be calling out your name, and hey, we are going to be calling out a name right now. So this week's winner is, all right, so this week's winner is Miss Alexandria Holder. Alexandria, she listens to us in El Cajon, I believe. My Spanish is not great. El Cajon, California, USA. And yeah, Alexandra, if you're listening to so much, and we will contact you after the show, get your prize out to you, and we will, of course, hey, handle it from there. But if you want the next Alexandria, you know, all you have to do, enter computeramerica.com, enter the contest, and very simple, numerous ways to do it. Check it out. So with all that being said, why don't we go ahead and go on topic, which is computer and technology, brought to you by, of course, Fire Dragon Security. So here we go. All right, so I think for our first story, we're going to do something kind of light. And when I say light, I mean it in a couple different ways. So I'm a huge fan of projectors. And not just any projectors, but projectors that can make a large image on, you know, you paint it with the right color paint, get the projector right at the perfect angle, and you're going to get a screen that would cost you thousands of dollars more, or even impossible. So here we go. This is coming to us from The Verge, and yeah, LG's first 4K projector can beam a 150-inch display onto your wall. A 150 display onto your wall. And say that it's half the size of other ultra high definition HD projectors. So yeah, and if you see the picture there, you can see it on the ground. It's kind of like a, and I don't even want, let's say the size of a fire extinguisher. I don't know how best to describe this thing. Maybe maybe two tall, and a little canister. The lid pops up, and that is your projector. So you set it on the ground, and it projects it on the wall. So they said that LG is not waiting until CES to reveal one of its high-end living room gadgets for 2018. It's a 4K HDR projector. LG claims that the new HD projector is about half the size of other competing 4K options, which they said many are heavy, expensive, and difficult. Okay. All right, I'll give them that one, I guess. But the UH80KA, by contrast, being pitched as affordable yet premium device. And they said that the picture can get awfully bright, where it says it can top about 2,500 lumens. 2,500, not the brightest I've ever heard of. That is going to pretty well in a dark room. Probably in a sunlight room or room with other lights, it's going to be a little washed out, but 2500 should do pretty well. But again, it's 150. Imagine that for a TV screen. So they said that the on top of the 4K resolution, you also get HDR with HDR10, and that is, of course, well, they said no mention of Dolby Vision. If I'm not mistaken, though, HDR10, the better of the two standards when it comes to HDR from Dolby. So I think they got the right one. Anywho, the projector can be positioned on the floor, mounted on the wall, or hung from. And they said it'll work great in any of those setups. And you can see it here again on the video portion, where on the video portion. Yeah. So you can see it there where it's just sitting on the ground, and yeah, again the lid pops up and is projecting out on a pretty setup. Of course, there's no cords coming from it. That's a little disturbing. But anyways, there are built-in speakers, HDMI, Bluetooth and optical for audio, and the projector will play media off of a USB drive and also let you hook up an external. So they said it will let you run WebOS like LG's TV lineup, so it has like a smart operating system as well. So they said that this projector, well, they said for reference, some of the other 4K projectors today come in slightly under $2,000, and they said that, well, LG's going to be even cheaper. So 16, 17, probably $1,500 range for a 150-inch projection screen. Again, it's a little dim on the lumen side, but pretty good. Pretty good. So there you have it. Check that out. And expect a lot more product articles like this with the coming of CES, because LG kind of jumped the gun on this one. But a lot of other companies do hold tight lips until CES proper. They want to make the biggest impact. So there's that one. And why don't we go ahead and talk about something a little bit more, I don't want to say important, but I'm going to. Now, unless you live in India, you probably haven't heard of the Aadhaar. And so this is a bit on the scale of what happened with Equifax. But instead of 143 million people, now imagine that 10 times worse. Here we go. So this is coming to us from the Hindustan Times. And they said that Aadhaar has landed in controversy again after a claim that rogue agents are selling access to the central database for the Rs 500. And this is not good. So essentially, everyone in India is registered into the Aadhaar information, into the Aadhaar identification. It's the Unique Identification Authority of India, which governs the Aadhaar project. On Thursday, denied the claims that Aadhaar database had been breached, as was interpreted by some, but noted that the newspapers had access to limited details abusing search facility that is only available to government officials. So they claimed it didn't happen. Reporters are already getting into information that would not be accessible otherwise. So there's no reason to really doubt that this information is floating around out there. So they said that rogue agents allegedly selling access to the Aadhaar website. And here we go, saying that they said that the portal is intended for government officials for access to grievances, such as rectifying spelling mistakes in a person's name. But somewhere in the chain, according to media reports, rogue agents have started to sell access to this portal to just anyone. And a rogue agent could create a new account with the same privileges as an authorized administrator for other people. And in a televised interview, they said that the portal exists only for authorized officials, and that he pointed out that even if an unauthorized personnel gained access to the database, they can only look up information of people whose Aadhaar number they have already have in their possession. So if the agent knows a certain person's agent could access private details. This sounds like a horribly thought out and provisioned database. Essentially everyone has permissions. Anyone can create new accounts. Anyone can have access to it. It's not really doing proper checks. This is just atrocious. And again, when it comes to who's really vulnerable, this is every Indian. And this is going to be 1.4 billion people like that. It's a lot. It's either 1.4 or 1.2 billion people are affected by this. So they said that this is important for you to find. A person may have your home address, name, and phone number, but to avail several services where your biometric information, fingerprints, may be required, they don't have access to that data. Furthermore, it remains unclear for now the scale of the abuse system. The article says that we do not know how many unauthorized people have accessed the search facility and whose data that they've actually captured. So they said that the Ad Hoc project was initiated as a voluntary program in a bid to tackle benefit fraud, but over the years it has been made mandatory for access to welfare as well as several other scheme benefits. Essentially, think of it like the Social Security system. Yeah, it's going to be almost the exact same thing. And privacy advocates have warned the government about potential dangers of a centralized system of such large volumes of data, saying that I know how worried friends in India have been for a while, and this is why. If you digitize it, sooner or later, you must expect it to be abused. And there you go. And, the article has more quotes here and there, but I will say this is probably the worst breach to ever hit India. And even though they say it's not as bad as everyone assumes, as we've seen time and time again when it came to places like Uber, Sonic, Equifax, they always want you to think it's not as bad as it actually is. And it turns out being way worse. So there you go. And I even read somewhere else that people were selling access to this information for as little as $8. They would create you an account that you would then go and, access all this information. So there you have it. And yeah, we'll have a link to that in the show as well. So I think we have plenty of time. So for our next story, that one was a little terrifying. So why don't we do something not as terrifying? That one is absolutely terrifying. So how about this one? Apps. They make a huge difference to your smartphone. What apps you have available to you, what apps you are currently using, what permissions you give them. Essentially, apps have changed the way that we think of programs. They are quick, they're easy to use, they're well integrated, and they're great. But what do they really mean, from an economic perspective? Check it out. App revenue has climbed 35% and has made it become a $60 billion industry in 2017. This is super cool. So global app revenue climbed 35% in 2017 to nearly $1 billion in total, according to a new report today. And that coming from Sensor Tower, which measured paid app subscriptions and in-app purchases across both Apple's App Store and Google Pay. However, Apple is the one pulling in most of the revenue at nearly double that of Google Play. That is the part where Apple is killing it, where I think at this point, Android phones outnumber iPhones, maybe 2 to 1 or something like that. iPhones no longer hold a majority. But even though for not being the dominant ecosystem, for not being the dominant operating system, people are still willing to spend money on iPhone. That's a key difference, and that's a huge difference to where you want your app to show up. Do you want your app to show up in a bigger marketplace or one that actually makes you money? And that's why iOS is by many the premium of the two. So they said that obviously combined, that places the market totals at 58.7 billion in 2017, up about 35% from about 43 billion before. So Sensor Tower's numbers are in alignment with Apple's own figures announced yesterday, and Apple on Thursday said that it had a record-breaking holiday season in the App Store with over $1 billion in revenue. And let's see. So they said that $26.5 billion is the money paid out to developers after Apple's 30% cuts. But Sensor Tower's reports look at estimated gross spending before Apple cuts, and its findings fall within 1% of the actual figure. So pretty good information, pretty solid information. So they said that China, for example, overtook the US in App Store revenue back in 2020. And App Annie, more recently, attributed quarter 17's record app revenue and downloads to several emerging markets, including China, India, and others in the Southeast Asian nations, particularly Vietnam and India. This shows that when we see record after record after record being broken, it's not because Americans are feeling better about smartphones and they're spending twice as much. No, we're seeing that developing these other markets, be it China, other countries, Asia, Africa, these other markets, there's not as much capital as there would be in, say, Europe or the United States, but there's still capital to be had, and it's untapped, and that's what's driving record numbers. So, while multiple studies have found that the majority of users today downloads apps per month on average, this growth rate points to the fact that there's a lot of potential downloads in those emerging. And that this can also be seen in the data where they show the growth rate of Google Play app downloads much larger than the App Store. So Apple, 16.7 versus 6.7. So yeah, you have the more wide Android platform in Asian countries. That's the one leading the charge in downloads and new apps and potentially revenue. So Google Play saw its 64 billion first-time installs in the App Store. I'm sorry. Google Play saw 64 billion first-time installs to the Apple App Store, 8 billion. So Android, higher rate of adoption, but we still have Apple still raking in lion's share of revenue. So there you have it. And yeah, again, just wanted to cover some of the economics of it, but it does show apps as, even though it seems like, especially here in America, downloading them. We may be spending money on some, but we definitely aren't downloading new. That's okay though, because these companies, Apple and Google, they don't really care because they see other more bountiful lands across the ocean. So, all right, so there you go. That is revenue, and that gives us time to go ahead and about one I wanted to talk about. Oh, actually, let's do this one. This one's weird. And when I say weird, I mean weird. So, this is coming to us from BBC and Chris Byron. I said that right. So, YouTube. It's been a topic. We've discussed it a couple of times with their, they have an algorithm because there's so much video being uploaded to YouTube on a daily basis. I mean, heck, we're doing the show right now. It's being streamed to YouTube where it will be stored later. Hey, check it out. But it does show that the rate of ingestion for no signs of slowing. But when you have that much video and you need to make sure that content that grossly inappropriate is not uploaded repeatedly, well, that's where you get algorithms. You get artificial intelligence who will tell you when certain parts of a video match another video, or generally, uh, you know, well, copyrighted. There's no other way to put it. When they are copyrighted. Well, here's where you have a situation that is pretty good proof that YouTube, and by extension Google, because hey, they own each other, uh, YouTube's copyright detection algorithm is set to 11. It's way too high, way too sensitive. And by that, we mean that white noise video on YouTube is hit by 5 copyright claims. That's right, white noise, static electricity, the thing that is prevalent throughout the entire universe. It's the after effect of the Big Bang, and it can be heard on radio waves and static. And, like honestly, if you're listening to this on the radio and you change the dial just 1 degree, you hear that white noise, you hear that static. It was a 10-hour long video of that stuff that cannot and should not be copyrighted, has been hit with 5 different copyright infringement claims. Isn't that some bull honky? So, a musician who made a 10-hour long video of white noise, indistinct electronic hissing, has said 5 copyright infringement claims have been made against him. He's going to make these claims. Who is copywriting white noise? Who agreed to give a person a copyright on white noise? So, they said that an Australian-based musician said he made the video in 2015 and uploaded it to YouTube, where the claimants accused him of infringement, including publishers of white noise intended for therapy, and saying that I will be disrupting these claims. Disputing, not disrupting, disputing these claims. In this case, those accusing Mr. Tom Jack are not demanding the videos removed, but instead reward any revenue made from advertising associated with it. That is sometimes the case where there are different degrees of demonetizing a video where, the money that the video would have made would go to the person who properly copyrighted it. Things like this prevent people from uploading videos and essentially losing all that revenue that they would have in the first place. There's others such as silencing the whole video, which they're not looking for, not looking to delete the whole video. Again, they're just looking for money. And they said that without the claims, author would receive no such revenue himself, or at least he would have revenue himself. Saying that I am intrigued and perplexed that YouTube content ID system will pattern match white noise that his video was originally made with other 10-hour recordings, using a continuous electronic tone, and that the claims relate to specific portions of similar lengthy videos of white noise also posted to the site. So, the author said that the spurious claims won't have a significant impact on him, though he finds them frustrating, saying that if I were making substantial money, such a broken system may prove to be unusable. That sentence alone, right there, if I were to be making money, this would prove to be unusable. We have situations where people are uploading videos and spurious claims or false allegations of stealing or being or just being demonetized by a computer. That is certainly a problem that current YouTube, people making a living off of YouTube, that's something that they're dealing with right now. I mean, even ourselves here at Computer America, we're not looking to really make money off of YouTube, but I will say that our videos have been demonetized. In some cases for mentioning hacking. And you'd think for a technology radio show, that's a topic that we should be, we're not telling you how to hack. We're not telling you what to hack. We are, doing that would be illegal, but we still find ourselves demonetized we're talking about relevant daily content. So when this article says that, hey, YouTube may be a little aggressive, we see it ourselves here on the show. So similar cases have occurred before. In 2012, one YouTuber reported that he faced copyright claims over bird song captured in the background of one of his videos. Bird songs background triggered a copyright claim. That is ridiculous. So the claim was soon removed, but he said that copyright does not protect the idea, but the expression of the idea, and that if I record background white noise, if I have a random white noise generator, or that, with me being the first person to fix that recording, then I am the owner of its copyright. And that the only other option is to go through the courts, so I think on balance, it's probably as good as it can. So there you have it. And again, this is an article outlining or really highlighting the fact that YouTube is currently dealing with a problem it really doesn't have a grip on. And that's the idea of copyright claims. It's it's not going well. It's not going well for YouTube, I would say, and a lot of people are getting frustrated with the platform. And when you start to get frustrated users of your platform, they tend to go elsewhere, and that can have repercussions for YouTube. So, with that being said, let's have time for, and let's see what this one is. This one caught my eye. I didn't exactly get too far into it, but the idea of it seemed weird. So here we go. This coming from Engadget, and this is by Violet Blue, saying that don't pirate or we'll mess with your nest, warns East Coast internet service provider. And yeah, this is a pretty long article, so we'll just try to skim through it but they're saying that internet slowdowns at home aren't just they can be hazardous. They can be hazardous to your health or dangerous in an area that freezes. Where internet service provider Armstrong Zoom has roughly 1 million subscribers in the northeastern part of the United States and is keen to punish those it believes are using file sharing. Again, peer-to-peer file transferring services, not illegal. There are completely legitimate reasons for peer-to-peer transfer, but internet providers take a very heavy-handed approach with it. So the ISP's response to allegedly naughty customers is bandwidth throttling, which is when an ISP intentionally slows down your internet service based on what you're doing online. And in this case, when said ISP believes something illegal. And they said that as part of the throttling routine, they'll send a warning letter openly threatens its suspected file sharing customers about its ability to or control their webcams and thermostats. How much authority an ISP has directly over third-party web cameras or thermostats, but they definitely have the ability to limit your access to them, if not actually control them. That seems a little extreme. So they stated, please be advised that this may affect other services may or may not have connected to your internet service, such as the ability to control your thermostat remotely or video monitoring services. There you have it, folks. When the internet gets more integrated into our lives, internet as a utility, the idea of it becomes much more obvious that the internet is indeed a utility. So, well, we're flat out of time, folks. If you want to catch us here, be sure to do it next Monday, January 8th, I believe, as we have on the show with us. Let's see. We have with us Axios. Yep, we're going to be talking about Axios and everything that they do, and be sure to check us out then. Folks, thank you for listening, and if you're listening to us on IRN, thank you so much. If you listen to the podcast version of the show, thank you. And be sure to tune in Monday through Friday, 4 p.m. to 5 p.m. Eastern, as we get back into the swing of things with our first full week of shows for January starting next week. Everyone, have a great day. Thank you so much. And hey, until next time, have a great one. Bye-bye.